Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast with your hosts, Jason Balin and Ian Horowitz.
What's up? What's up, Ian?
What's up, man? I spilled water all over myself. I look great. I'm ready to go. Today
You have like a hair. You need like a hair dryer from you're at your office. I'm guessing you don't have a hair dryer.
Why would I
Well,
have
if you're at your house, you would have a hair dryer. I mean, even if you're not drying your hair, Mr. Wonderful, your wife is.
Fair enough.
So what's up today? July 29th, Wednesday. If you're just tuning into the show for the first time, welcome. We always usually have a lot of fun on this show. It's open mic. We do have a guest that we're going to introduce in a second. As questions come along, do not be shy. Feel free to ask all your questions. You can comment below this video if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or wherever the heck else you're watching it. We do have a podcast set up where you can hear the audio, and the audio is at realestatereservepodcast.com, or you can just continue to tune in. We do these live, but they stay natively inside Facebook and YouTube and all those other fun channels. So make sure you comment any questions related to real estate investing, personal finance, business, marketing, all the fun stuff that Ian and I do on a regular basis. So instead of just calling each other or talking to each other or chatting with each other about it, let's just do it on an open forum. It makes it much more interesting.
Yeah, man. I feel like things were easing up, and they're not easing up anymore. We're back in that weird position. We don't know where the world's going to come to. I think today's the 29th, 2 days, the $600 runs out. I know I'm going to be watching it along with everyone else to what happens because of all the rental properties we have. And I know our guest that we're bringing on today, Shaun, has some rental properties. I think a lot of us are going to be watching what happens after the 31st. It'll probably be about 2 weeks afterwards to see what happens with that. I apologize. I'm making sure we're getting shared everywhere we're supposed to be shared.
Yeah.
I'm here to give you guys 100% of my attention. But yeah, either way, the 29th, I got water spilled on me. But the 29th, or 2 days in the 31st, I'll be watching that very closely along, I know, with a lot of other people. But I say we just don't waste much more time and bring Shaun in, who is a full-time real estate investor, as well as up until COVID held a full-time W-2 job, and is going to give us some tips, tricks, how to manage a real estate portfolio. I literally just hung up the phone with one of our buddies who has a full-time sales job. He's like, hey, man, I need to get involved in real estate. I want to learn how to do it. And I think a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today is what I just talked to him about on the phone. So, Shaun, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, man. Hey, guys. Shaun Magner, as you just said, full-time investor here in Baltimore. For a long time was doing the W-2 and investing thing. But COVID, we've had to pivot in many ways, which I'm sure we'll get into. Been investing in Baltimore for about 5 years, primarily in subsidized rentals, some fix and flip, but the primary focus has been rental acquisition and that. And so had to change our business quite a bit recently due to COVID. And, we'll talk about some of that, I'm sure, through the conversation, but had to kind of go back to some things that I had gotten away from, like basic marketing, quite honestly, right? Kind of felt lazy and was dependent on realtors and other wholesalers. With the W-2 thing, that was kind of a necessity, but so kind of taking back control and, it's kind of an addition by subtraction kind of a situation, right?
Right, sure.
Lost some things, but it allowed me to gain a lot of time and refocus my efforts, my energy. So anyway.
So where are you currently with your investment portfolio? Are you currently still on the lookout to buy more properties, and are these rentals, are they flips, or are you trying to execute better on your current rentals and just kind of run that game? Like, you playing offense right now, playing defense right now? Like, what's kind of your game plan moving forward?
I'm shifting from defense to offense.
Gotcha.
And so why that is, basically, we can get into that, but I see opportunity coming. I think we all do. And the defense I was just maintaining for a few years, right? My focus was elsewhere in a W-2. Ian, as you mentioned, you have a buddy with a sales job. That's what I've been doing for a long time with sales. So it's pretty flexible and allowed me to kind of, if you will, double dip. But I've been really focused on rental acquisition. Now we're kind of ramping back up and focused on growth again.
Right. Yeah, no, it's It's a valid point. I mean, I have a W-2 job. Granted, mine's a little bit different than everybody else's, but it's something that still hangs over your head. I've had a lot of discussion recently. Do I maintain it? Do I move on? Is it truly what I love to do? So I fully understand where you're coming from there. For everybody else, I know, Jason, we were talking about current events, but I always like to know, like, how did you get started in real estate, and like why real estate? I know you had a very good, stable W-2 job. Like, what attracted you to it?
I mean, you'll probably hear this echoed if you haven't already, but the Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? I mean, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and having a paradigm shift on how I looked at business and finances and just life in general really got me interested. And then I had honestly not done as much research as I probably should have before I got involved. And I joined a national real estate investment education program, right? It will remain nameless, but you guys know. And that introduced me. And then it introduced me to some concepts that I wasn't aware of before. And then locally, I just started attending a couple of networking events, having no idea what the heck I was doing, and forced myself to, get comfortable being uncomfortable and having some conversations. And, I found some local mentors, if you will. It kind of took me under their wing and taught me an awful lot. But really, I just wanted the time freedom, man. I knew what I was doing was building somebody else's goal, right? I was building their dream for them. And while I had some time flexibility, I wanted to have complete control of my time, and I didn't have that. And I saw real estate with my education level. I had an associate's degree of an applied science, right? Just an AAS. And with my education, it was the easiest path to the goals that I set for myself was real estate, because the bar of entry, while it is risky, it can be low depending on the strategy, right? But that's why.
Yeah, and what wasn't one of your first deals or one of your first few deals was a pretty large acquisition of a portfolio of properties. Do you want to tell everyone, a lot of people say, well, I got to buy one house first and I really got to dabble. Tell everyone what you did on your first deal. Sure.
So the first deal technically was just a fix and flip in the Hamilton area of Baltimore. And that was in the fall of 2015. But fast forward to the late summer of 2016, I had a few rentals under my belt at that point. I had a couple of flips done, and I successfully negotiated a seller financing deal of 10 units from this guy. I picked up 5 duplexes, came to me as a referral from another investor locally, and was able to kind of use the confidence that I had built over the last year by networking with my mentors and learning from them, and the tools that I was given and that I was learning, and was able to use both of those to successfully negotiate that thing. I didn't have to put much down. I had to put 10% down on a $375,000 acquisition, and seller financed the package at a 7% interest rate with only 10% down. The thing cash flowed well. It was this nice little portfolio, but it was a 10-unit deal. So I went from having a couple of deals that I had fully, I purchased them, renovated them, I chose the tenants, to now acquiring a 10-unit package that was not renovated and was occupied. So I've inherited those tenants, and so that was a kind of jumping off the deep end.
Right. So okay, so you dive in, right? Like, and I give you mad props. We sort of did the same thing. It took us a little bit longer to get there, but we dove head first. I think some guys just have that about them. So when you're doing that, you still have your full-time W-2 job. How did you manage, or how did your life change, or what did you see that you had to do to make it successful? And something that we can give to our viewers as a tip of, like, what did you instantly have to do to be able to manage that properly and maintain your job?
One was discipline, and 2 was tools. So the discipline is, I was in sales, I had a lot of flexibility, and so I could get up when I wanted, if you will. I could do what I wanted throughout the day, and I no longer could do that. So right. I started implementing some time blocking strategies, right? And I became very disciplined at time blocking. My fiance would argue now that she would probably laugh at that. It's definitely not the case like it was, but right. I was very, very disciplined, and I thought that was part of it. And then tools. When I say tools, I just mean implementing some software that I was not used to and I wasn't familiar with, like Buildium. I'm sure you and some of your viewers are familiar or probably using it. But really just had to get much more disciplined. I had to, admittedly, man, I was kind of lazy in a way. I figured out my milk run, if you will, as a sales guy. And so I'd fluff the pillows as necessary, and otherwise I could just chill, and got kind of lazy. So I had to get rid of those kind of bad habits. But that's really the big thing. Discipline, time blocking is huge.
Yeah, exactly. And I know one thing that a lot of people always want to, whenever, you talk to either a success story or you talk about deals in the past, people want to know where you find these deals, how do you finance these deals, and kind of what the current situation is in the deals now. And again, there's no like magic formula. And at the end of the day, deals come from everywhere, right? You could be you could be doing a ton of work. You could be going to every auction you want, and you can be scouting MLS all the time, and then next thing you know, it's a friend of a friend or someone a real estate agent reaches out to you. So it's interesting. So you mentioned, let's talk about the financing of those. So you mentioned 10% down. Was that because you got a hard money or a private lender or seller financing on it, or a bank? Like how were those deals originally financed?
So that particular deal was financed. The 10% down was my cash, and the seller financed that thing. So he owned those free and clear. He also owns a large mortgage company locally. He invests, so he knows what he's doing. He wasn't easy to negotiate with, right? I wanted the first 12 months principal only. Kind of scoffed at that, but so there was 10%. The 10% was my own cash, and then he just seller financed the balance.
Yeah. Okay. No, good. And it's funny. The last two shows we've done, we talked about seller financing these portfolios or bigger projects in general. And I think in general, people, they overlook the seller financing. And I think most of the time it's because everyone's living in the norm of let's go find a property on MLS that's owned by a bank. Right. And those are the properties that we're buying. And obviously those are harder to owner finance. But when you're actually out there in the trenches, finding deals, doing the hard work and getting deals in, owner finance is everywhere. I mean, we see it as well, all over the place.
Oh, dude, it's huge. At one point, I kind of ran out of cash, right? My cash was, this is probably 2 years in, I had cash in the bank, but it was all kind of allocated. And so what I did is I started targeting with our marketing, a lot of high equity stuff, right? And I did that intentionally so I went to my hard money lender, he's a local guy, and we have a really good relationship. And I said, listen, are you willing to take more risk for more money? And what I wanted was 100% financing, right? So I had that conversation with him. And then I also started targeting these high equity, sellers. And I had a partner at the time, and he was like, Shaun, I don't know if I can say it, you're pretty ballsy for asking everybody we meet with if they're interested in seller financing. Dude, I was writing 2 offers on every house. Here's the cash offer that everybody else is going to give you. Here's a seller financed offer. And here is, as a result, how you're going to make more money. I was doing it left and right because, again, I kind of ran out of cash, right? So and it worked to our success a few times. So seller financing, creative deal structure and financing is, it's kind of fun, right? It forces you to critically think and use that damn brain. Yeah. A lot of people have gotten away from.
Yeah, and we have.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was to say we have some good questions down below, but I think one of the things is that we'll get to you guys in a second. But one of the things is, like, if you don't put it out there, how do the people even know that that's an option, right? Like, a lot of people come from the traditional world, but we find that people that are savvy, and if you can pitch it properly, and pitch is maybe not even a good word, if you present it properly, so they understand the benefits not only for us as the buyer, but more importantly them as a seller, and it becomes a win-win strategy. That goes. You're resolving somebody's problem. You're resolving a tax issue. You're resolving where am I going to put my money issue, or whatever it may be. You're resolving something for them in the grand scheme of things, and it goes a very long way.
Dude, I tell you, I mean, if you walk into this thing if you walk into a seller meeting and you have the mindset that you're just going to try to get the best deal possible for yourself and not provide a solution, you've gone about this thing the wrong way. And it comes off in the conversation pretty clearly.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we see it all the time on stuff, and especially when you get into some of the larger projects. But again, the reason that everyone lives in like, oh, my real estate agent just sent me this deal. Right. And yeah, it's a bank-owned property, or it's something. It's something that's not gonna. It doesn't live on the MLS deals as much. I mean, sometimes, but like it doesn't live in those deals. It lives in the deals that we should be looking for, and the deals that are out there right now. If your only strategy is to go find a property on MLS, you're gonna have a hard time. If your strategy is to go and work directly with sellers, which you're supposed to do in this business, that's where deals are made. It works. So let me hop into a few comments, questions. This is just a comment. Discipline is super important. I'm working on this strategy. Nice. Good stuff there. Anthony has a few questions. On Buildium, at what property count, Shaun, did you switch to a dedicated property management software, and what's your current property count?
Sure. So when my number was, I think it was unit 18, 19, somewhere in there is where I decided to make the switch from my, archaic Excel spreadsheets to something a little more structured. My unit count is actually still around the same. So as I mentioned, I had sold those 10 that I mentioned a minute ago. I sold that 10 unit portfolio. I actually sold those, and I can explain that. But so it dropped my unit count back down. So we're right at 20 today.
Yeah,
you did that for sanity, right? I think you should explain that because we just talked about that.
Absolutely. No, it was a great portfolio. It was a great portfolio, and I kind of have seller's remorse, right? I kind of do, because I'm a buyer, not a seller, is how I view my rental business. So I'll probably kick myself down the road for that. But quite honestly, it was at a time that I had a lot going on, and I sold that to pay down some debt and regain some sanity. I had lots of stress at the time. Had like a panic attack in the middle of the night one time, like just stressed beyond, to the hill. I don't know if you guys probably don't remember, but back we had a what was it, 2016? Jason, you guys hosted us at the at M&T at Shock's place.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had a giant white spot right here on my beard, like our boy Mike Casey.
You sure did.
Turns out, look, I'm not dying that, dude. The dermatologist said, "How much stress are you under?" I was like, "Dude, if you even have a clue." And the guy said, "That's alopecia areata. Get rid of some of the stress and it'll come back." Believe it or not, I had panic attack. That was it was in a bad way. So I sold those because I inherited, as I mentioned earlier, those tenants. I did not renovate those houses. So those ones were just my problem children. The cash flowed, but I needed to relieve myself of some stress for my sanity and for my health. So that's why I unloaded those. Again, seller's remorse, maybe, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, and I got a few other things to add to that, but one thing that just kind of popped in as we were talking about is what you stated about those were properties that you inherited the tenants on those properties and you hadn't renovated them, and we've run into the same challenges as well on the properties that we took ownership of, that we did full renovations on the right way. We placed the tenants. Obviously, we've had a lot less upkeep with maintenance. We have a lot better relationships with our tenants, and the ones that we did not start from scratch with, we've had issues with. And I know a lot of people that buy like turnkey properties, eventually down the road, they could potentially run into issues. And not that turnkey is not a good business model. I actually believe it is a good business model for some people, but at the same time, just because it's a nice livable house with a tenant in there, you still got to go create that relationship with the tenant, and you have to make sure, obviously your major mechanicals and a lot of other things, you're not getting service calls every hour. Right. Related, so we actually use, and Ian can share what software they use as well. But just to finish Anthony's question, and then he's got another question as well. We use Yardi, and in our business, we're a type of business that typically throws money at things early on, without just because it relieves us from a lot of headaches. So we didn't have that many properties, and we were stroked a check for whatever it was, $150 or $200 a month. I'm not actually even sure how much what it costs for Yardi. And we had somebody in our office learn it, run it, and do it. So for us, again, it's just time versus money on a lot of things. Our rental portfolio is our second business. So I think, if Anthony, if you're serious about adding new rentals to your portfolio, and you're definitely doing it, and you're planning to do it on a rapid pace, after you get one or two in there, research some of these and move forward with it.
Yeah, I definitely want to keep the conversation moving, because I know Shaun's got a lot to tell us about. I think he'd bring a lot more value than just this. But we have 100 units. We managed everything on QuickBooks up until a few weeks ago when we added a 76-unit building. And with that being said, we now utilize Tenant Cloud. I don't know that it's powerful enough for what we wanted to do. I've used Yardi. To me, it's antiquated. So we're back in the market looking for what potentially is the best software out there. My last point about software is, hey, Anthony, whether you're got one house or 1,000 houses, as long as you have a system that you understand, and it works for you. And the most important thing is, you can have any software you want, but if you don't put the proper information into the software, it's absolutely completely useless. So
yeah, exactly. And again, it's whatever data you want to track and whatever makes the most sense for you. And again, like you just said, Ian, you used Excel until 100, and you can continue to use Excel. I mean, we use Google Sheets and Excel for a lot of different things, and people are like, well, why don't you get software for it? And it's, in most of these businesses, they don't make software for it. And if they do, it might not have the stuff that you need. I mean, we ping things together through, Zapier and through our CRM and everything. So thanks, Anthony. Let's do one more question with Anthony real quick, and then we'll move on. Where did you learn how to structure your seller financing terms? Where would you recommend someone starting on that?
The short answer is mentors, man. Find people that are doing what you want to do and ask them to, I hate the term pick their brain, right? But ask if you can buy them a cup of coffee, or maybe now with the quarantine, just do a Zoom call or whatever. But my mentors taught me a lot, right? My mentors, some guys took me under the wing that were very, very creative thinkers, sharp guys, things that I'd never thought I would have never thought on my own. You can read many books, but I mean, what I want to know is people in my market that are doing what I want to do. I want to find them and I want to learn from them. And my mentors taught me all that, man. I mean, when I say my mentors, I mean local landlords that had more units than I could ever imagine, and they took me under their wing and showed me how I could start buying rentals a lot sooner than I ever thought imaginable because of some of the strategies that they taught me. And so it really comes down, for me, it was my mentors. I didn't learn any of this creative thinking or critical thinking, creative deal structure in a book.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a very valid point that, what is the right thing? There is nothing. It's what you create, right? Like we just, on this 76 unit apartment building, if anyone wants to go back and watch last week's episode, we created that, and it's a 5% note, and it works for them. We have other deals where people have owner financed at 10% interest only for a short period of time. Look at what the banks are doing, and banks are always a good benchmark to say, well, this is what I would get from a bank. I'm willing to do this for you. Or if you're getting this from a hard money lender, I'm willing to do this for you. So I guess I just got a mail delivery. So with that being said, that's how you want to work it for you. So I'll get back to that point about when you have that white spot in your beard. I find that really interesting. You said the properties were causing you stress, but was it the properties and your W-2 job, or was it because you didn't have systems figured out, or which one was it? Because, for those people, again, like we're all in a similar situation. We started the W-2 job, started investing, and then graduated to full time. Was it your job that caused you the stress, or was it not properly managing your properties?
The latter, not properly managing the property, not properly managing the really anything, dude. It wasn't just the properties, right? Yeah, you're looking pretty blurry there. It definitely wasn't the properties only. So I had a couple flips going, or I had one flip that was kicking my butt. Probably shouldn't have done the deal. Used some bad comps. That thing kept me up at night and caused a lot of stress. The same could be said with one of my rent. Trying to figure it out. There you go. I also had a rental, and this is where ego got in the way, and ego became part of it, right? I thought, well, this rental property doesn't seem to need as much renovation. I've renovated a few dozen at this point. I can handle taking this on myself. And I decided to go on a 2-week trip to South America as soon as giving a new contractor a green light on a house. And I came back, and dude, it was bad. It was a bad deal. When I say update mechanicals as necessary and they replumbed and rewired my house, shame on me. That was ego, right? I said, I can handle this. And I took off like an idiot. I took my eye off the ball. And so that's what caused the stress. So my own ego was part of it. The lack of structure in my business was another part of it. And just making a bad decision and too quick of a decision. Really, it had nothing to do with those properties. It didn't. However, the reason I sold those particular properties, as I mentioned when we were offline earlier, there was a trend of some auctions years ago that it was a gallery auction locally, and I decided I'm going to just put some numbers on this and put it out there and get some feelers. And sure enough, those feelers were met, and I thought, well, hell, all right, let's just do it. So it had nothing to do with those properties necessarily. Granted, Jason, back to your point earlier, they were my stressors of all of my portfolio. They were the problem children, but it was just lack of structure and ego.
Yeah, and listen, right now has been a really good indicator for a lot of people related to reassessing their business model and reassessing their business in general. Like our game plan was to acquire rentals and acquire more and more rentals, and we got up to about 20 rentals, and now we're back down to I think 13 or 14. And the reason is a few things. Number one, we wanted to cut the lower end stuff, the headache stuff, the stuff, and we didn't know which ones were going to be headaches. And again, sometimes it's, an area that you might not think is a great area, and then all of a sudden you throw some good tenants in there, and there's very little headaches, and it turns out to be great. And then there's others that could be in great areas that they could just end up being headaches and not worth it. So over short period of time, we cut some of ours and sold them. And also, like right now, even if you're trying to grow a rental portfolio, if you could sell something, it's a seller's market right now, which is a different conversation, separately. But right now, hey, we have properties that we're selling for 169 or 179 that we think are still worth 140, right? And that's what the game plan was on them. So it behooves us to take that extra $30,000, sell them now, and instead of, it's so much better than making up whatever the $500-600 a month positive cash flow we're getting. If an asset sells at a premium, you take it, right? That's just how it works. So I think so many people are always in like, I got to buy more, I got to buy more, I got to buy more. And in general, in business, like more is not, less is more. That's just what it is. I mean, there's no, oh, I want to get to 100 units, or I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, figure out, chances are you can do a heck of a lot less and execute a lot better with a lot less headaches and make it work, right? I don't know if your game plan right now is to do, you said offense. Now, obviously, yeah, to buy more stuff. But again, like, you stagger it, right? You stagger it, and what you know now. You know that if a project like that 10 unit or the 10 singles that or multis that came, however those were set up, that came originally, you might be like, you know what? I don't want to buy this turnkey setup anymore. I want to go and fully renovate all mine because that works best for your model. So, there's no right answer for everybody. It's kind of what works best and what resources you have. Someone's not gonna be able to get hard money or bank financing or types of financing if they don't have good credit and they don't have any cash to put in. You might have to get seller financing, so you might be limited to that. So it's kind of an interesting world, and like I feel like so many people are like, oh, I want to do this because this person did this. Well, that's how they want to structure their business. That might not be how you want to structure this business. There's nothing wrong with working a W-2 job that you really like and you enjoy and you're passionate about and you make good income from, and buying one rental property every year that brings in $6,000 net in income. Plus, you're paying down debt and it'll hopefully appreciate over time. Like that's a good business model as well.
Agreed.
So being a full-time real estate investor probably is not the best business model for a lot of people.
No doubt. And I mean, I think you guys know I do some coaching with some students and with some investors, and a lot of times I explain to them, listen, you don't want to run. I mean, a lot of people want to fire their job as quickly as possible. I was guilty of that. I wanted to as well. I did not like my W-2. I felt like I was on the hamster wheel, right? Just in the rat race. But some people love their jobs. And I mean, so whatever your goal is, define what your goal is, deconstruct that thing, reverse engineer, whatever the saying is you want to call it, just figure out what it's going to take to get there and start working back towards it. There is not one size, one shoe fits all type of a thing. And I would say this, you are a product of your environment. I believe that firmly. And so you start networking with or surrounding yourself with one type of an investor, odds are you're going to start investing only in that, right? You're going to get tunnel vision, put the blinders on. Whereas if you just kind of just take a step back, let the peripherals do their thing and take it all in and see what you want your business to look like, what you want your lifestyle to look like. And it might not be a bunch of Section 8 houses in Baltimore City. It might be something different. But I think firmly you're a product of your environment, no doubt about it. And I wouldn't say fell victim to that, but I'm a great example of that. Started networking with new guys, and I started buying the type of houses they own.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell somebody that without them learning that firsthand. Yeah. I mean, on paper, it all makes sense. Right. I mean, listen, we have a very good matured business, and every once in a while, I'll get sticker shocked, or I'll be like, my head will be like, oh, this would be cool. I should acquire this 50 unit building, and I'm like, I can't execute on this. What am I even thinking? So like, I can imagine what somebody on just getting started believes, because they don't know better.
It's like that shiny object syndrome, right? Like,
yeah,
you start networking with let's say you want to flip houses. You watch the TV shows. It seems sexy. I want to go flip some houses, right? Before and afters are all pretty. Let's do that. Well, you're starting to build an island or build a bridge over to what I've been calling Financial Freedom Island, right? trying to build a bridge over there. And you see something shiny over here, and that looks like rental properties. So you start going over here and start building a new bridge. All of a sudden, you got 3 or 4 bridges that are half built. You're not anywhere near the damn island, right? So do one thing, get that thing right, figure it out, in my opinion, and then move on to the next thing. But the shiny object syndrome is
Yeah, well, I agree. I look at it differently. I say, what's his name? Holyfield. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? Like everybody's got a plan. I'm going to go buy $1 billion. I remember when I first started, I'm going to buy this whole neighborhood. I'm going to own every house in this neighborhood. And I got tenant number 1. I was like, yeah. Let's just start with one.
But I mean, there's nothing against starting bridges, but you got to end and turn around as soon as you realize it's not the path that you want. I mean, I thought we wanted to own a lot of rental properties as well, but like rentals don't work for us. Like, I don't pay enough attention to them. I'm not good at executing them. I mean, I like the lending side, and that's kind of our core business. I mean, I think everyone wants to kind of dabble and have multiple streams of income, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you're kind of true to yourself and the resources you have. And obviously, the more resources you have, and the better mentors you have, and the harder you work and things like that, the quicker you can kind of catapult this. Sure. But it's important to kind of be true to yourself. Like, if someone says, "Oh, what's the best way to find deals?" It's, well, the way I can find deals is different than the way you're going to find deals. Like, the best way to probably find deals is, get out on the street and start door knocking and go talk to people one-on-one. Am I going to do that? Absolutely not. But that could be the best way to do it. I mean, usually, and if someone's working with a coach in general, and we've done some consulting as well, one of the first things that has to happen is like, where do you want this business to go? And what resources do you have? And what are you comfortable doing? Write down the 3 things. Here's 100 ways to find properties. Write down 3 that you're comfortable doing, or you're willing to do. Because if you're not willing to door knock, and you're telling yourself, "Oh, I'm going to go door knock 50 houses today," and you're not willing to do that, you're quitting. And you're going to be like, "Oh, real estate wasn't for me. Real estate doesn't work."
Right. That's right.
100%.
Go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say, I'm actually going to change topics. I was going to say, you had a W-2 job up until COVID-19. Like, what did that look like for you? Because I know we were talking about marketing and stuff like that, but up till COVID-19, what did it look like, your portfolio look like for you with your rental properties? And what does it look like from COVID-19 on? If, obviously you're willing to share that information, what happened from there on out?
Happy to do it, man. So I just up until COVID, I had a W-2. I worked for a large door distributor in a middle management, senior management type of a role. So I was straight overhead, right? Straight overhead. I was one of the first casualties probably that I know of in the salaried team on that company. And so I lost the W-2. I was also speaking for a national real estate investment education company, and on the weekends, traveling around the country speaking. That went away, right? I mean, live events, no more. And what my portfolio looked like then, it still looks like today. It was 19 units 19 units in-house. But now that forced me, basically, I think I had a little bit of an addition by subtraction kind of a thing, right? Where I lost the W-2, lost some speaking. Those were big hits, man. Like 70% of my income was hit. That was pretty serious. So I had a little bit of a beat down moment, like, holy crap, Shaun, what are you going to do? And like everyone has, the word pivot has been overused maybe, but it's the most appropriate. I had to pivot. And so I went back to kind of grassroots, and I thought, all right, what's the latest? What's the newest thing with marketing? Because with the W-2, man, I had not been marketing. I hadn't. I've been coaching students and talking about how they should market and why they should market. But I admittedly hadn't been doing it myself. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's because just my scenario was different than theirs. So I got back to marketing. I started learning some new marketing tactics and started deploying those. And so now we've got 1 rental under contract, 2 that we're negotiating with. We just put a flip. I'm going to get off topic there with the flip, but I've always had 1 or 2 flips going just because I like coming into that chunk every few months. And you just earn, invest, right? And so we just put a house, we just agreed to a contract with a buyer on a flip that we just completed. And I tell you, man, the quarantine has probably been the best thing that's happened to me in my business in a long time. The pandemic, terrifying, no doubt. Don't love that. But the quarantine itself has been pretty good. It's allowed me to just kind of refocus. But that's what the business looked like up until COVID, or that's what the sales thing looked like up until COVID. And again, it was in a sales management role, so very, very flexible.
So now that you've been free, what do you envision? Let's just say tomorrow the world turns back on, or let's just shoot for November, because that's most likely when the world's going to turn back on. Politics aside, November comes around, world gets turned back on. What do you think you're going to do? You're going to go back to W-2 in it, or are you now that you've had this chance to live this lifestyle, you're going to continue on this path?
It would have to be a real sweet offer to get me back to a W-2, only because some of that time freedom that I've now gained, I've used wisely enough, fortunately, to not have to go back. Right, I've been able to. We're settling on Friday on a 2-unit cash out refi. Just refinance now to 2 units. It's a large cash out, and it's allowed me to just not have to even think about going back, which is pretty incredible. I didn't see that coming, quite honestly. So that's a big deal, man. Also, we're rebranding and starting building a new business. My fiance has an interest in the business, so she's been helping me kind of build this new brand, and I don't really want to go back to a W-2, quite honestly. And my goal was always to invest full time. And since COVID, it sounds strange, but it's kind of the opposite of maybe what some are experiencing. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I won't have to go back because of some of the things that happened during the quarantine.
No, yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, I think a lot of real estate investors have similar feelings. Like, if you've been wasting the last 4 months of your life, watching Netflix and doing a lot of other stuff, like, you're in a rude awakening. Like, this is the time to play offense right now. And obviously everyone has, a lot of obligations, and a lot of people are in different situations. I mean, I'll tell you firsthand that, homeschooling kids is a disaster, and that's very tough, and that's going to continue to be helped. So it's not the case for everybody, right? Everyone doesn't have, some income coming in from rentals or has flips or stuff like that. But like, I gotta think, hold on, let me brush this off, try to get this clear again. Okay. But I got to think, like, use it for free time. I mean, one thing that I've been vocal about, that I've talked to Ian about, is, trying to get through more books and podcasts. And, I try to spend about 2 hours a day on doing so. And that's a lot more. And, that can just be like, cool, I used to drive to the office 15 minutes each way. So there's 30 minutes there. Plus, half the time people aren't even getting ready, taking showers, doing anything else in the morning. Right. So there's other stuff. So there's other ways to do it. And most people kind of have permanent offices, a better office set up in their houses now. So again, it's not for everybody, but I would say that, and most people that we've talked to who've been on the show, again, they summed it up like you. The pandemic's an awful thing, but the quarantine has had them relook at their businesses, relook at things, spend time on stuff. I mean, our whole staff works remote for the most part. I mean, we usually have one person that comes into the office a day. Obviously we have to write checks and stuff like that. But it's helped our business in general work remotely, right? Like, we don't technically even need a $3,000 a month office space anymore if we don't want one. I mean, we're going to continue to. Obviously, there's positive energy when you go into a team environment and you chat, but I mean, we utilize a lot of the tools that a lot of other people do to do stuff electronically and digitally, and makes it's interesting. It's interesting how this whole thing worked out, and it happened like that overnight. But hopefully, a lot of other people are. This is a great time to kind of learn the business of real estate investing, and even if you can't meet mentors offline right now, there's still enough digital stuff. There's still enough online stuff. There's a lot of content that's going through the interwebs right now that you can absorb.
No doubt. Absolutely. I've gone back to learning a lot.
100%. Speaking of learning, and Jason brings up a valid point, I know you brought up Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What are you reading? Any books currently? Any podcasts besides the Real Estate Reserve podcast that you're listening to regularly that would help people, whether it's real estate, life, anything? What you got any suggestions?
Yeah. So I'm reading The Obstacles Away by Ryan Holiday. You guys read that? Have you read that book before?
Yeah, she's so good. ClickFunnels this year.
The Daily Stoic and that.
Yeah.
Never Split the Difference. That Chris Voss book, man. Have you guys familiar with that one as well?
No,
yeah, he was the FBI's lead negotiator, the international lead negotiator for the FBI. Dude's a badass. He wrote a book on negotiating, Never Split the Difference. It's called. Chris Voss, killer book. I'm looking at my shelf. David Allen, Getting Things Done. I read multiple books at a time, and I don't know if it's a good strategy or not. I've tried it for the first time during all this.
Do you read physical books, not audiobooks?
I was reading a lot of audiobooks. I had an Audible subscription as I was traveling, on the weekends to different states, and during my travels for my job, I listened in the car. But I'm never in the damn car anymore, and I miss holding a book in my hand. It's something. I mean, I love it. Sit here with a coffee in one hand and a book in the other, dude. I think it's great. So yeah, I'm reading physical books. Just got done with both with Jess Litzer's Living with a Seal. I know that's an older book, but fun read. Yep. So those are some of the books that I'm reading.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's a good question. We like asking that question. The thing with books is there's so much content out there, and it's hard to obviously absorb everything that you even want to. Yeah. So why waste time on something if it's going to turn? Because the last thing you want to do is get into like 2 hours of this book and be like, yeah, I don't really love this. And there's a few books that obviously that's happened. And sometimes, especially with Audible, sometimes it's just the narrator. Yeah. There's books that I just don't like. The content's okay, but the narrator's tough. So it's good to always get recommendations from people of what they're doing. The current book that I'm actually halfway through right now is the Fastlane Millionaire, which a lot of people think is kind of a sleazy book, and I thought it was too. And because the way that, based on the title, I didn't want to listen to it. The Millionaire Fastlane. Sorry, got it right here. The Millionaire Fastlane. The reason why I didn't want to listen to it, I was like, yeah, that's kind of cheesy. Like, I'm not all that into it. But I heard, I think maybe 3 people over the last week on different various podcasts that I listened to recommend it. So I jumped in and I like it. And it's a little harsh and aggressive for a lot of people. Very anti W-2 working for the man environment, somewhat anti-schooling. It's very like, you're a grown up, don't rely on anybody else, do it yourself. You have no one else to blame except yourself, stuff. So it's fine. It's good. And Ian and I share a lot of stuff that we read, and then we do little book reviews afterwards.
Jason, I've struggled like crazy with some of these books. David Allen's Getting Things Done. It's like the art of productivity or productive, whatever. Yeah. Dude, that's a struggle for me. It's like, also Gary Keller, The One Thing. People are obsessed with that book. I hope this doesn't make it back to him, but man, that book annoys me. That book is annoying. I know. The one thing, dude, I get it. It's the one thing. Stop saying it. I couldn't get through that book.
That was like Grant Cardone's 10X book. It was the same thing for me. I was like, it was hard for me to listen to his voice on it, and it didn't work. And like, I'm trying not to be biased on who's sleazy, who's not sleazy, because at the same time, the way I look at it like this, and if all 3 of us read a book, we'd all get 3 different takeaways from it. Sure. I try to get one really big takeaway from a book, and a lot of these books are long. This audiobook's 13 hours long. Some books. Like Sam Zell's book that Ian and I just read, and it's an 18-hour book. I read it in a week, audio book in a week, or like Warren Buffett's The Snowball, like books like that. You're getting dozens and dozens and dozens of nuggets. But I look at it as, if I'm into a book at 8 hours, 10 hours, I get one really good takeaway from it. It was worth my time. It was worth my time. And a lot of, and how takeaways work. Most takeaways are something you already know, but the way that they described it and communicated it and presented it, it's like, oh shit. Now I had this aha moment. And
it hits you differently depending on where you are in your business or in your life, right? I attend a lot of live events, and I would attend live events, and I've been through some of these same trainings. I've even spoken or taught those same trainings, but I sit in them not to necessarily learn the 101s, but to pull the nuggets, right? Just to find the nugget. And something hits me a little bit, and I'm like, damn, you know what? I've known that for years, but I haven't thought about it, and I need it right now. And so reread books. I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, man. I've read that book a bunch. Yeah. I didn't just read the thing one time.
And that's how the E-Myth is. E-Myth Revisited is as well. It's the same setup, because like right now you might be the technician, and then you're gonna be the manager, then you're gonna be the visionary. Sure. Like you're not. If you're a technician, a lot of times you might not be focused on the visionary stuff, right? So it's like, whatever the focus is of, or we can use Rich Dad Poor Dad as an example, or whatever, one of the 4 quadrants that.
Yeah, ESBI. Yeah.
Because I just finished that book as well, again, and you're in different spots in your life at different times. So,
you know, a book, interestingly enough, and then Ian, I'll mention some podcasts because I know that was part of your question. But I've recently read Rocket Fuel, and who's that? Gino something or other. Anyway, but I recently read that book, and that was fascinating. It hit me at the right time. I've heard of that book for a long time, but my fiance and I are starting to do some things together, if you will. And she's showing an interest in this. And reading that book, I always knew that my head was in the clouds, but I've been defined as a visionary, and she is an absolute implementer or integrator, whatever the hell they call it in that book. I'm not the integrator. I don't want to get in there and learn QuickBooks. I want to hire that crap out because I have no interest in it. But she could get down in those weeds and stay down there and just dig, and that's cool. And so we complement each other in that way, and I learned that through that book. And I think that we've learned a little bit about each other, and maybe it's given each other patience for the other just by reading that book. So, man, books can hit you. And if I read that book 5 years ago when I was single, would have done nothing for me.
Right. 100%. Yeah, no, I'm a romantic. I like storytelling. I like when people tell us their story, I get more relation out of it. Of like, Sam talking about as he's growing his portfolio. I'm like, oh shit, we're here, and like you put yourself like right into it. Or I'll tell you what, the Phil Knight Slumdog shooting, whatever
Shoe
was
Dog.
that. Yeah, Shoe Dog.
I didn't know you read Shoe Dog. We never we haven't done a book review on that one yet. I love Shoe Dog.
That was a great one. What do you got in the podcast?
What's that?
Podcast.
Yeah, podcast. So, I mean, I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan. Jason, you mentioned earlier that the name of that book is kind of catchy, and you're just like, or kitschy, and you're just like turned off by it. The same with the 4-Hour Work Week. Even Ferriss, if you follow him, he doesn't love the name he gave that book. Another guy named Ramit Sethi, he wrote a book called "I'll Teach You to Be Rich." Again, or "I Will Make You Rich." One of the two. He hates the name.
I'll teach you.
Is that what it is? Oh, you'll teach. Okay.
I'll teach. No. The book's called "I'll Teach You to Be Rich."
Yeah. So he also like regretted the name of his book, but it's full of nuggets, right? Simple nuggets. But the podcast, so I listen to a lot of Tim Ferriss when I'm on the road. His podcast interviews tend to be pretty long, but I love, outside of real estate, just anybody doing anything at the pinnacle, at a high level. Dude, if you can't romanticize a little bit and daydream while you listen to these stories and how these folks think, you're kind of broken. So I love Tim Ferriss's podcast. As far as real estate goes, other than the Real Estate Reserve, right? I definitely listen to Steve Trent's Real Estate Disruptors. You guys familiar with them? Yep. Great podcast. He's got some like just studs on that show. That's really all that I do. And honestly, guys, since I'm home more, I haven't been listening to as many podcasts as I was.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you there. Luckily, I've been traveling a lot. But how I built this, same thing. Romantic is about
Guy Raz.
Yeah, Guy Raz, top of their game. He's interviewing people that have built their business. They're at the top, or they've sold their company off. And like I was listening to a lady today, the most recent one. She made laundry detergent for high-end clothing, which I never wear. But high-end clothing that you can, instead of going dry cleaning, you can wash it, and sold her company for $100 million. And if that doesn't make you dream, I don't know. I love it. So I'm with you.
I love it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we should wrap up. Any last questions for Shaun, Ian?
How can people find you, where you're at, best way to get a hold of you, and for that.
Facebook and Instagram, Shaun Magner. Just go find me. It's not hiding there. MonumentCityHomes.com is our website. That's really it, man. Those are the real places they can find me. And I've kind of ducked into the shadows even before COVID, when networking live in person was still a thing. I kind of got away from that. So, but how you can find me now online is Facebook and Instagram at Shaun Magner, and MonumentCityHomes.com.
Nice.
Sounds
nice.
cool.
If you want, feel free to comment that in the comment section. Post that in the comment section. That works too. All right, man. Well, let's keep in touch. And, what we've been saying is we'll all circle back soon, kind of after this, after COVID's kind of hopefully over, and we'll kind of where are you now type of situation. Check out where everybody is. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. Thanks,
Shaun. Thank you.
Yeah, another great interview with another great guy. I'm glad we were able to get some time on with Shaun. A few other questions came in that we didn't hop on, but I just want to make sure We talk about them. Have you found have you found opportunities with seller financing in commercial properties? Absolutely. I think that's very, very common. Ian, share your story real quick on the seller financing that you did. What was her motivation to do seller financing and not just get a big lump sum?
One of her main motivations was the way the property's owned, and the way the property will be passed down through an inheritance, that they were looking to reduce their tax implications until the property's inherited into the trust. So once that happens, then there'll be a different taxable event for the cost basis of the property. So the owner, what she wanted to do is, one of the ways seller financing works is, well, you might sell the property, you're retaining a note, and you're only paying taxes. You're paying taxes on your interest, but you only start paying taxes on your gains until the principal is retrieved back. To that point that you fully capitalize that. So you're retrieving your principal back first, and then you pay taxes on your interest, and only what you collect, not on the overall sale price. So it's a huge advantage for those that are involved that are owner financing. We did another deal. I mean, and Samia, if you want to watch last week's or listen to last week's podcast, we discussed the 76 unit building that we just had owner financed. 76 units, she owner financed 90% of it. Another deal we did, 7,000 square foot warehouse over in East Baltimore. The guy owner financed it to us because he said, where else am I going to put my money? You guys seem like trustworthy guys. I love your story. You gave me you pitched it to me great. Why would I take the money out and go place it in the stock market and risk? I want the stable return. And it worked out for us. So there's plenty of deals out there that you can get done by owner financing, whether it's single family or commercial.
Yep, exactly. Jod, I agree. Tim Ferriss is amazing. Actually, Tim, I have pros and I go back and forth with Tim. I mean, I like a lot of Tim's stuff. When he gets a little too scientific on me, it's hard for me to listen to because Tim's uber smart in general. So sometimes he's just above my pay grade on knowledge and what I want to learn about. But he interviews the best, and he's had some good people. And actually, one of the reasons we started following Sam Zell is because I heard Sam Zell on Tim's podcast, and Tim actually didn't even interview him. It's a friend of his that did, but it was good. So, all right, Ian, well, that wraps it up. I think Friday, we're going to hop on live again midday. So tune in Friday. Any other last words?
I see you commented Pete Belden. Is he on here?
Yeah, he's on here. He just doesn't. He just hides. Pete. As soon as he gets on a little break, he gets a notification from his phone and he hops on and he's like this, so no one sees him, and he's watching stuff with his earbuds.
Well, I know he's on the same quest that Shaun was on. Hopefully, removing himself from that W-2. Sorry to put you on blast. But anyway, no, Jeremy, it was a great conversation. Shaun's a really cool dude. He has a lot of knowledge. And hopefully it's an aspiration for everybody that's involved in real estate, if this is what you want to do and this is what you're looking to complete. So
cool. All right, everybody. If you need anything, reach out to us directly and we'll check you guys on Friday. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.